all these thoughts. This is a video for you. Anybody else watching? Yeah. Okay, there was a comment you made, and I want to respond to it. There's some things in there I see you're doing and some things that I want to address. My name is Dan Paulson. Everyone, welcome to the video. We're talking about mythology and how mythology is very widespread and it's in the Bible. What I want to do is first take a look at what the comments are, and let's go ahead and address a couple of things here. These are from my own research is what I'm going to be providing you with here. Okay, there was Adam and Eve and the two forces inside each person. Ancient mystical and Gnostic teachings, especially pre-biblical and non-mainstream, taught this. Adam and Eve aren't simply two historical people. They represent two aspects of the human being. We agree completely. Adam, mind, spirit, masculine energy, outward force, logic, will, active. Eve, body, soul, feminine energy, inward source, intention, nurturing, feeling. I only agree with two of them. Adam, mind. Eve, soul. However, soul is bundle of memories. Okay, we'll get onto that. It is you, me, and everyone. In you and me and everyone, there is a masculine force doing building and protecting, and a feminine force receiving, nurturing, and creating. The real fall or original sin in deep teachings wasn't eating of fruit. It was the division inside the human being, the split between the male and the female energies within ourselves. Wholeness means reuniting these two energies within. Okay, I'm almost on board. Almost. There's a couple of things that I don't like, and I don't use the terms. But we have to talk about them because they definitely are in the material. We have to sort through what they mean. And that is the masculine and feminine sides. Okay? Actually, let me refresh this. People that have been watching me for a long time understand this, but people that don't catch on, but probably the reason my channel is so dead is because I completely eliminate supernatural, 100%. There's nothing out there to me that's supernatural, but this is my reasoning process on it. If there's something out there, and I certainly have clairvoyant things happen, I have things happen that you go, what is that right there? I know things are happening. However, I believe that they're natural because they happen to everybody and they happen devoid of prayer and asking for anything. So these are normal things that happen. Sometimes better things happen to people that are atheists than are theists. What does that to do? It has nothing to do with your belief system. There's something else going on. Okay, so if I look at this and I think that there's something out there, that it's natural. It's not supernatural. Saying supernatural is saying something is out there that somehow exists outside the laws of nature. And there's people that say, no, that just means that we don't understand them yet. Then I'm going to say, then don't call them supernatural. Call them natural that you don't understand. As soon as you call something supernatural, you're kind of done. It's supernatural. It's out there. What the hell is it? Is it there? If it's there, then it's natural. I'm not going to call it supernatural. If God is there and angels are there, I will never call them supernatural. I will call them natural. The term supernatural is a place to plug things that, yep, there it is. You never have to answer to those ones. I don't like that. I can't do that. What I find as a result then is I go through here eliminating that idea that everything becomes mentally interactive here, and God exists as a concept in our mind that we can actually get to and experience. If you continue to claim supernatural, you can't find that. All right, the reason that people don't like it is because somehow it doesn't address eternal life. However, what it does is reflect other teachings like in Taoism or Buddhism that simply say we come from the cosmos and we return there. That's exactly what happens at the level of template. But that while we're alive, we're in this flow so that I will bless you, those who bless you and curse those who curse you, means that all good things will continue and bad things are going to continue to happen to you. And the energy for it is going to be here all day long. You get whatever you want. Your life is going to continue to unfold. I'm going to give you good stuff. I'm going to give you bad stuff. But it's you that are in the flow that are holding thoughts up here that is creating whether it's good or bad. I'm giving you energy. You use it how you want to. That's what is coming from God, the cosmos, from this template. It's like, whew, yeah. However, and this is important, you can recognize God in your mind when, I use the example all the time because everybody goes through this. When you get to a certain point in time in life where you're 3, 4, 5 in the morning, you will wake up frazzled. You can't resolve something. And there's this mental conflict going on. But every once in a while, a third voice pops in there. Another voice pops in. Your consciousness is experiencing this turmoil from unresolved issues, things you're worried about. Here, how old is that? Babylonian creation myth, the Enuma Elish. Right up front, what is going on? Things go bad, the gods go crazy. That's our early self, and what does it say here? I have been very troubled by the manner of their conduct, so that I could not relax during the day, nor sleep well at night. Therefore I shall bring it to a halt, and get rid of them all. Then silence shall reign, and thus we might get some sleep. There it is. That's your mental turmoil at night that keeps you awake. They're teaching this long ago. Jesus has the same thing. It's more obscure. It's meant to be in a different kind of a package, so you're looking to God. If you come to the altar to leave a gift, and while you're there, you remember you have that ought against your brother, go resolve that ought first. Don't give your gift. And then, after you've resolved the ought, your Father who sees in secret will reward you in secret. You don't even have to give the gift anymore. So if we work this through, why are you leaving a gift at the altar? You want a better life. You're looking for God's good graces. Okay, please, life sucks. Although I remember I got a bunch of crap I'm dragging upstairs. But life sucks. Please, please. Stop looking for a good life. Go resolve the stuff that sucks, and life will automatically work okay. Yeah, plain language. You're worried about what you will wear tomorrow. Okay, that means, what am I going to put on? That's exactly what we're doing. We're worrying about what we're going to be putting on. But every once in a while, another voice comes in. I don't know if it's a third or not, but there's a voice that comes in that says, hey, you got to relax. There's nothing you can do tonight. It's an aspect of you somehow or something out there. It comes in unsolicited, and when it happens, it doesn't. At that moment, you're like, I don't even feel the emotions. If you stop and think about it, when this is talking, the emotions go away. Then you slip right back into it, and you realize, oh, I'm shifting into energy waves here. This one over here is in the emotions. This is where I'm living at a very low frequency. If I understand that this higher awareness is there, I could go, hey, where are you? Come here. Let's sit with me. Yeah, I know you're there now. Okay, I got it. Let me work with you. Let me practice going here. Let me practice going, oh, I have to disconnect from that. It's so easy to just be swimming in that turmoil, a sea of emotion. And as long as you're generating that, you're in that flow, you're creating more of that, you're making it stronger. It's incredibly important for life to go, oh, I got to stop this. Here's the higher awareness to get to help interrupt that cycle. Now, there's something that's causing that cycle to happen. From the higher awareness, I'm going to start working on resolving those, the seeds of those, whatever they are. Whatever I'm hanging on to, I'm continuing to cycle around. So I use the higher awareness with my consciousness now. Instead of going, I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I don't like it. I'm ashamed. Yeah. Instead of doing that, we go, yeah, I'm tired of living through this shit. I'm done with it. I don't care what it feels like. I'm lifting it off. And if people in the end go, get out of here, you creep. I don't like, what you had to do. That's fine. I'll feel better and I'll be alone. There's a point where this is a process that is going on. That's the hero's journey in a nutshell. And then coming back to life and experiencing the changes of it, the changes in life that happen as a result. Your Father who sees in secret rewards you in secret. Once you resolve the ought against your brother, bam, there it is right there. Bear in mind, though, if you're like me and you don't believe in anything supernatural out there, what you know is that without believing in God or expecting God or looking for God's good graces, all you're doing is saying, I can't carry this burden. I'm not looking for anything better. I'm looking to set down this hurt. And when that hurt is set down, I find out my life automatically is better. I'm no longer in that flow. That is a part of a negative energy that is within me that is causing me to continue to align with its same kind. And it is an emotional energy. I'm going to feel it through my central nervous system and experience it through my mind, through a kind of a sixth sense area. Because we're in fields that way, and instead of ears or eyes, we're using a central nervous system to feel emotion instead of see or hear. But it's all there. There's more than 5 senses. There's a sixth one. We know this by getting together and worshiping or going to protests or things like that. You can get caught up in fields that are so strong that you can't get there on your own. You'd have to look at it later and go, wow, what was that? What was that? That's right there. We're observing that field. And when we get together and put intensity to it, we make it so strong as a group that it gets stronger than we can make it on our own. That's why, you can look at that and go, all right, yeah, we're in emotional fields. Those are feelings. We're sharing an emotional field. The two extremes of that field are fear and joy. And within that, though, is where all these other things are happening, where we're becoming aware of things amongst the group. I read your mind at that moment. How did that happen? It's magical stuff. Somebody else, I remember when my brother died. I remember having a clairvoyant moment. He was alone, but before I went out of the house, I felt it felt like a poem on my head. It was very visceral. I just heard Larry's dead in my head. I shook that off. It was goofy. But I went out and I found him, and indeed he was dead. People have things like that happen, and depending on the mind, there's a lot of people out there that think, oh, I'm talking to God. I'm some sort of special chosen person. This is a natural process that we all experience, but it's the very thing that gives some people God complexes. I've been specially chosen. I got talked to by God. It's normal stuff, but it's evolutionary fields of existence that keep us safe. Okay. In the Talmud, the Talmudic period of Judaism, really old stuff, Lilith was Adam's first wife. Eve was his second wife. In Genesis, that was modified so that there was not a first wife. But here is what happens. I'm going to read from the Hebrew Goddess by Raphael Patai. This is a book recommended to me by Dr. Justin Sledge from a channel called Esoterica. All kinds of old, mysterious stuff from old. I would recommend that. It's fun stuff. He recommended this book to me, though, when I was trying to figure out more about Lilith. He had a video up on it. I'm just going to read this part right here. Somewhat more is known about the life history of Lilith and her nefarious activities as they were imagined in the Talmudic period. Lilith, we learn, was Adam's first wife. However, Adam and Lilith could find no happiness together, not even understanding. When Adam wished to lie with her, Lilith demurred. "Why should I lie beneath you," she asked, "when I am your equal, since both of us were created from dust?" When Lilith saw that Adam was determined to overpower her, she uttered the magic name of God, rose into the air, and flew away to the Red Sea, a place of ill repute, full of lascivious demons. Okay, so we don't know about that. We're not taught that, but it's available material. So the Genesis story is a morphing of something that was previously there. And it's doing something purposeful. If we understand what they're doing in Genesis, we're going to find out that this was doing the same thing, except that if you look at this from a Judaism religious standpoint, it doesn't sound so good. God first made the wrong woman. Adam and Lilith were both made from the dust of the earth equally instead of from the rib. And she wanted to be on top. When we understand the male and female component parts analogously in these stories, what we're seeing is that the male is really the consciousness and the female is the result of life choices. That's why it's not there to begin with. When you go to the Bible, you will see Adam shows up. Adam is there first for a little while before Eve gets there. Think of your own life. Think of when you started, when you can look back and go, I remember about 5, 6, and from there on, I kind of remember life. But before that, there's things happening that I don't remember. That's the period right there. When Adam is there, the consciousness is there. That's each of us living through this time frame before we're not even self-aware yet. When Eve shows up as a result of us, Eve is also told later through sin that you will be subservient. So here we had in the first story, the female is not in charge. It was setting up a mental hierarchy and also setting up a demon and things like that. So it was a lot more mythological in that sense than what we see in Judaism today in the Adam and Eve story. The Adam and Eve story is a very watered down, short version of something that was huge, that went on much bigger before then. Okay, so then the Adam and Eve really amounts to, us, that is the conscious and the subconscious of each person. Who are you? You're conscious. What are you thinking with and listening to me with right now? Actually, that's not exactly true. There's something else now that's going on. The Adam and Eve is first iteration of us. That's our childhood self. Then we begin to experience life. We lose our inner peace, which is held in the idea that we have had first sin, and now we leave the Garden of Eden. And we go off and live life. We're going to have cyclical pain in childbirth, and that we're going to live off of the earth. We're going to live really unaware that we're doing this. But that's what this period is right here. We're going to be living life, collecting all the crap that we want to get rid of later. But at this point in time, that's what we're doing. We're starting to collect that stuff. You're being told you're going to live life collecting that. Okay. And at that time also God tells Eve that you will, you'll be subservient to the husband. I don't recall the verbiage right there, but that exactly happens. So that right there is reestablishing the mental hierarchy, that the inner being is subservient to the consciousness. That needs to happen. When you go to the Bhagavad Gita and Arjuna and Krishna are in the chariot, it's the same story. We got a God and an inner self getting ready to go on an inner path. And Krishna's letting him know, I can only be your advisor. You got to do the work. What is that? That's the higher awareness saying, I'm here to work with you, buddy. But your consciousness is in charge. That's you. That's your brain. That's your thinking process right there that has to engage with me, the past, the memories, the emotions. You're going to feel it viscerally. All of that has to be managed. If you don't manage it, it's just going to continue to be a pile of whatever it is. You got to sort it. Am I going off track here? No, I'm not. That's the story of how this goes. Then we get into Genesis. We have lineages happening. What is happening is we move along from Adam and Eve. Then what happens? Cain and Abel. These are iterations of us. And all of these people, as it goes by, those are iterations of us as life goes by. First, we're little happy children in the garden. Now we're not. We're Adam and Eve. Now we're starting to go bad. Now we turn into Cain and Abel. We could go good or bad. Oh, one kills the other. One takes off. We have a division happening right there. At that point, God disappears. We've lost touch with the higher awareness now. That what we want to get back to later is now gone. It's there, actually. We just don't pay attention to it. We start living through the physical experiences. Plus, we want to. We want to go live life and experience. I want to live, learn, play, have fun, go do things. All of that is a part of life that we're collecting at this point. We're not aware of the fact that all the good stuff and all the bad stuff are going to the same place. The people that go on the journey are people that recognize that they have issues and that they want to do that. So that's what this pathway ends up being then. So then as we go through a lineage, you get to Adam's lineage farm. This does a couple of things in the Bible. It is actually that one that has those goofy numbers, the 930 and 7, 840 and those, that's an analog farm. That's collecting numbers for a specific purpose. I'll do a different video. They're not that complicated, but they're just really weird. We don't understand them. If we play with them enough, you start going, okay, you see patterns and you see what they're doing, but you have to play with it a lot and use the computer. So I've done that and I can show what I've discovered. I have in other videos, but I think it's tough for people to follow. If you can't do it on your own, I don't think you can understand it. I think it's just over people's heads. And it's not, and it's because they have to go after it and learn it. I did not know this my lifetime. Only later on am I really looking at it and figuring it out. Okay, so what happens then is in that Adam's lineage farm is that those represent, every one of them is an iteration of us. Except in this case, it doesn't matter. What they're doing is using that area right there to build numbers. And they make it sound like life was that way, that duration right there. But that's pretty silly, obviously. People that think those are literal, I'm sorry, that's very silly. We're doing a 7-3 collection grid, and you know that 900 is said 7 times, 800 is said 7 times. It's going to continue on like that. There's a numbering process going on that people that just read it and go, they live 900 years, duh. Yeah, well, there you go. You're not going to understand what there is. In fact, to be quite honest, what I find at the level of template more closely reflects the current thinking that consciousness is somehow fundamental, that there's something bigger, that we are somehow emergent from that. The material seems to allude to that, but it doesn't say anything beyond that. And I don't know where to find eternal life, except that if I go through the material and just try to understand what the masters are teaching, that is what I'm doing here. And at the template level, when you finally get it all extracted, it is a mental path, period. It is a mental path. All of the elements that are supernatural elements, God truly exists, but God is not out there. God is where we come from, and we still have access to God all the time. But we live life, we look at the outer world, we have our memories and our perceptions, we get angry and emotional, and we live through that without stepping back and going, holy shit, I'm just becoming a product of my perceptions. I got to quit that. I'm getting caught up in, the more I hate things and the more it just keeps happening and happening. Oh, I got it. I'm stuck in a flow and I don't know it. And it's my own brain that's doing it. Your consciousness has to step out of that. What is happening in the process, though, is your inner being is being developed, that Eve self. So I don't want to say male and female in this case either. When you look at that If I look at myself and I sit there and I think, how can I interact with this material? This thing is telling me that I've got a male side and a female side, that these qualities are this or that. And I look at it and I think, I'm a guy that has love, that has compassion, that cries easily. I don't look at that and say, that's my woman's side. I go, what the hell? That's just human. That's compassion. That's love. That's heartfelt, something here or there. That's not man or woman. That's not gender. That's human. Not everybody has that kind of feeling, but that's, the people that are on this path are going to have that kind of sensations and those kind of feelings. But I don't look at it and say, I don't even see a male or a female role in this. I don't want to take either one of them in this spiritual process. What is going on? Male and female in a living life. Okay, I'm in love with my wife. I want her. We have kids. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that there. All the parts are working and everything else. I know what it is to be a male. When it comes to the spiritual world, I don't know what it is to be male and female all of a sudden. It's like, that doesn't belong there. That belongs in the physical world. In the spiritual world, it's something different. The male and female are analogous terms for consciousness and subconscious in a mental hierarchy. And if you understand that that's what's there, and the reason the woman is supposed to be subservient, it's because your inner being is being told, store this. This happened. I'm ashamed of it. Here, put this away. Here, this happened. I hate it. I hate that person. Here, store this away. The woman is subservient to the male right there. That is why that is happening. And if we understand that that's what's going on, then suddenly we can begin interacting with the material, and we know that the offspring are really the memories that we're holding on to, that are those painful things that we're continuing to live through. If we give them male and female, did you stay on the outside going, what do I do? If you go, nope, that's conscious, subconscious, memories, bad offspring. You need to address this in order to heal, to resolve it. And when you do, your life flows better. That's what needs to be understood. So I think the terminology has to be very carefully dissected down to what it actually is. I talked to somebody recently about the whole Christ consciousness thing. I think I was on the other video. And it's like, I don't like using those terms. What is Christ consciousness? Christ consciousness, if somebody could really truly define what it is, they would describe it, and then you could go somewhere else and say, what is nirvana? And they would describe the same thing. What is the kingdom of heaven within? Oh, it's the same thing. What is inner peace? It's the same thing. So calling it a Christ consciousness to me is like every tradition teaches it, nests it, hides it. Christianity is a vehicle to carry it. That they don't know what the teaching really is. They don't follow the teaching. They only carry the teaching. And that is right in the material. All right, I wander off and then I'll refocus. I think that's how it works, honestly. There's so much out there that you just have to make comparisons to go, okay, I'm seeing that shows up elsewhere in a different way. It helps, when you look at it enough, it helps your brain start beginning to realize the different ways that they're carrying a common teaching in verbiage that initially sounds different until you learn to read it conceptually. That anchored ship that cannot sail, and the dog that's tied in the yard. Don't look for what's different. Look for what's the same. Conceptual. And you're the ship, you're the dog. What are you tied to? You can't escape it. That is when it becomes an interpreted, interactive teaching. That's what we need to do with all this. If we can't get there, we don't have it figured out yet. It's really old. We got to just sit back and take it easy and work with it in our heads. But it's all a thought process that gets us there. Okay, so the male-female role then there is the conscious and the subconscious, no matter who. And the feelings are going to be probably brain type driven. The INFPs, INFJs, people that are going to have incredibly, they can't disconnect from the environment. You're very highly sensitive to things. They have incredible compassion, things like that. It's going to be a brain type that is that way, though. Male or female are going to be that way. Well, it's a personality brain type that you're born with. And you can see that as an introverted thinker, feeler, deep thinker, contemplator, somebody that can see things that other people go, what are you even talking about? That's crazy. And you look at them and go, my God, you can't even think. They don't process. It's easy for them to believe in something and they just get angry without any proof. And yeah, there's different people. There's different brain types. When you get in here doing this, you're going to find people that are like highly compassionate. But yeah, I don't think the male-female thing is really dialed in. From the material perspective, it does not do that. It has a mental hierarchy. The female is the inner self. The offspring are a result of that. There are iterations of us. That iteration thing, you could see it if you go to chapter 12. You start right off with Abram and Sarai. That represents us in the beginning. Put in a place of famine, God leaves. We go off and have life experience represented by giving our inner being corrupted by being married to Pharaoh, and us in return getting slaves and animals for it, and then moving on from that after plagues are happening. So there's the process. But where Abram and Sarai, where does the calling happen? What is Abraham and Sarah? When God changes the name of Abram and Sarai to Abraham and Sarah, that is when the calling begins. Here's the person in the beginning. I went all the way through life experience up until it's time for the calling. Those are iterations of us. If you read this and pay careful attention as you go through this part of Genesis, you will see where God did disappear right off in the beginning. God reappears in person right here. This is where the calling begins. Up between the time God disappeared and the time till here, there was exchanges. You might think, wait a minute, there was something going on, but it was visions or the angel of the Lord or something like that. God himself physically did not reconnect with Abraham until he changed his name. That right there is the calling. You'll spot it. All of the material is doing that. It's us rolling along and different parts of us at that time. It is so complicated, it has to be up here. It's got to play out up there. All of those people are parts of you at different times. And that is a really hard place to get to. You have to grow to get there. Bit by bit, you start off with just saying, I got an issue. I've named something. Start with Taoism. Naming is the origin of all particular things. At the time that I had that experience and I decided what it was and I remember it, that's the beginning of it. That is the origin of that right there. That is the same thing as first sin. You are now going to lose happiness. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Hanging on to something. There's the ship and the anchor right there. Caught in desire. Caught hanging on to something. And it doesn't mean physical desire. It's a mental thing. It's caught hanging on to something. You may hate it. I hate that. I hate it. I hate it. Caught in desire. I'm not going to call it desire. Well, then you can't get to it. It's an analogous term. You're not letting it go. You may be not desiring it, but you're not letting it go. Why the hell not? Okay, so you must want it. Well, you really don't. Now, in the very same cyclical pain element, we have Eve being told that she will continually have increasing pain in childbirth. What is that? That means every time this emerges from us again and again and again, every time we give birth to this over and over again, it's going to be painful. It's going to be hurt. It's going to hurt. There's the cyclical pain. They got it covered everywhere. You have to interpret these, though. Whatever you're hanging on to, you keep seeing happen again and again. So you don't have to go through big stories from old that are used also in a population that pre-technology. And people are walking or riding horses. Maybe some ships. But life is not at all like now. These would have been this would be like their World Wide Web. They're equivalent to technology and something to keep them mentally occupied by the masses. What would you do otherwise? For a lifetime. I think these are huge and we just don't know it. All right, let's get back to the comments. And so, let's see, where did we get to? Oh, yep, all the way down to here. I stopped right there where the now Lamu and Lahamu. Let's see. I want to address some different things here. I'll skip that. I'm going to jump to a few things. Adam and Eve must work together inside one person to create a divine human being. Okay, and I reworded that to say conscious works to resolve subconscious for inner peace, is how I would say that same thing. In your way of saying it, Adam and Eve must work together inside one person to create a divine human being is right, but it's not distilled down to anything that's interactive yet. If you say the consciousness, which is Adam, works to resolve the subconscious, which is Eve, they work together to create a divine human being. You're working for inner peace. You want the union of the two where it's basically, I'm self-aware, but I'm not full of a bunch of things that make me feel like crap. I'm full of good stuff, not bad stuff. That's the perfect marriage. When you're sitting there and going, okay, everything's fine. I got a smile on my face. Nobody can tell in my head I'm twisted in turmoil and roiling and things like that. That's not a marriage. It's a personal thing, though. You can trick people. Well, for a short time, you'll act out. All right, the true human being is both male and female inside, fully united. Yeah, that's the one that says, all that combining when they're doing it in some sort of Christian area, the Gnostic area, they're playing with that verbiage. There was also something about that there's I don't recall the teaching. There's one, something about Jesus who stayed the evening to help disrobe a thinly clad young man or something like that. And what that would interpret to, if you were to really look at it, is the idea that when something is fresh and new, you got hurt, you've been covered by something. The covering is not a robe in the spiritual world. The covering is what happened after Adam and Eve sinned. Covering is what came off of Noah after the flood. Covering in this case is not a good thing. So Jesus is helping a young boy remove a covering. In editing, I thought, boy, I'm very unclear on this. Covering means that I now have shame. I now have something to hide away. When I didn't have that, everything was fine. I felt no shame. There was no reason to stand in front of anybody and feel any kind of fear. Now that I've got things like that, I've got fear, I've got shame, that's what the covering is. It's metaphorical. His robe is thin robes, which means he's helping heal him before it gets too bad. However, it is totally analogous with homoerotic overtones. All right, so this is weird. I don't want to go far down this path, but when you see enough stuff, you'll realize that there are people, at the time that the Gospels were being written, a lot of people knew this template. And they were creating all kinds of different material on it, not just the Gospels and the letters of Paul, but all kinds of other things as well, including all kinds of apocryphal Christian material at that time. Barnabas and things like that. There's a number of things that may or may not fit the criteria of what is viable material. But in a case like that, somebody's simply going, you know what, here's a teaching one too, except that this one is homoerotic. Let's make this one. It still covers. When you're young, here's somebody that's young that had something bad happen. Instead of letting them live their entire life, letting that get bigger and bigger, resolve it right away. Uncover it while they're young. Heal while young. In fact, if you interpret it, you can put yourself into this story if you have children. If you saw something happen to them and you knew, oh boy, they feel bad about that. I'm not going to stay quiet. I'm going to go sit them down and I'm going to help them talk through this because I don't want this to be a problem for them. That's exactly what this would allude to if you interpret it. If you don't, but it's written in such a way that it sounds like Jesus is a gay man. Yeah. They can't have that, can they? That's just not okay. But if you look at it, you understand what it is. Man-on-man sex means do not judge things. Do not judge. Judge not. You're having an experience with another consciousness and making a decision and producing an offspring as a result. When you take it to the template, it means something different than in the physical life. But it's something that becomes mentally interactive, not just a life story for a population. They're still written in a way, encoded, to be something that is interpreted at the personal level that is not what the outer level is. Okay, simply put, there are layers to this, and the very basic core layer is that template, the human life template. That is, when you find that, you've resolved every religion and mythology and found the oneness of all. That's a hard place to get to. Yeah, but if you can resolve it in one, you can start to resolve it in the others. It's taken me quite a while. Okay, let's get back to, there's a couple of other things here that I wanted to say because I really have strong feelings about some of them. Some not so much. A true human being is both male and female, inside, fully united. I don't like using the terms. I would just say not divided, that you're conscious and you're subconscious, that you just live from a state of, I'm okay. That's the uniting. Plain and simple, when you interpret the template, the male and the female always mean the conscious and the subconscious, period. Nothing else. The good, the bad, all of that has to do with something else. It has to do with purity, with purging the memories, all of it, and then living life as a result from the higher awareness and not from the bundle of memories. And then enjoying the benefits of life after one resolves the issues that they've picked up that they're living through cause and effect. What emerges from our garden based on what is planted. And it's because your consciousness is having all the experience and you don't have anything put away that is causing you to have a bad experience. You've resolved the judgments. And that is the most interactive way that I can describe that. Adam and Eve were not two separate beings originally. Eve came from inside Adam because she was already there, represented the hidden internal soul. The separation rib story is a metaphor for losing inner unity. Okay, that's where I want to say I have really strong different ideas on that. If you look at it, Eve is really Eve emerging from the rib. They're making it. They had to have Eve come from someplace, and originally Lilith came from the same clay as Adam. So they were both created as separate entities and equal. When it came time to then create Eve, it was important for Eve to be a component part of Adam. Not as something separate, but as a part of Adam. That is because the inner self is a part of our conscious self. It's not something different. It's not in charge of us. The consciousness is the Adam, and the Eve is the female emerging from us. And it is subservient to us because of that. And it comes about after the consciousness. So we can see that sequencing in there. God names some things to begin with. That's us showing up with fixed qualities. Then you get to name things before Eve gets there. That's you learning enough to be able to be self-aware. Colors, tastes, language, all that kind of stuff, the basics, all of that. You're a happy little kid. Once you start becoming self-aware and you remember things daily and things, there's a point in time as a child where we're not just little automatons with experiences but no memories of it, that we are now having memories. We are now remembering and having continuous joy. I don't know how to describe it. At this point in time in life, if you look back on it, it's your childhood times when you're playing with dolls or in the sandbox or eating cookies with grandma, apple pie a la mode with grandpa, all those memories that I might have of playing with family members and cousins and things like that. That there was a point in time before I really started suffering some hidden things in the house, abuse and other stuff that began to pick up. At that point in time, when I was a child, that's the Adam and Eve combined self. And then when the temptation happens, that's what represents the separation right there. That represents first sin. That represents first judgment. Judge not, lest you be judged. This right here is the earliest way of saying that it's going to be repetitive over and over and over again. In the beginning of life, you're going to start judging things. If we went to the Tao Te Ching, naming is the origin of all particular things. You just judged something right there, and now it's a part of you. Here we've got the same thing. I have now partaken of the knowledge of the tree of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I have now had life experience. I have consumed it. I have consumed through my mind and my life experience, and as a result, I now have judged something, and I no longer am living in that blissful state. So one of them is a very short verbiage thing telling you you're a product of your decisions, and another one is a long, drawn-out story that you have to know that you're Adam and Eve, and that Eve is your inner being that is coming about as a result of the experiences. So they're both going to be doing the same thing, but in radically different styles. And honestly, one teaching from the Tao Te Ching, this is personal responsibility. Here it is. This is how you came about. You come and talk to the master. You want to know what the problem is? I will tell you. And then you start giving them cryptic lessons that they have to go process and figure out. You don't give it to them in plain language. You have to make them figure it out. Figuring it out makes them wire their brain so it is not simply an academic tool, but an experiential tool available to the person who wants it. But it's cryptic, and it's not held in a way that makes people think that there's something else going on. When we get to Judaism, that's not the case. That same template is there, but it is held in such a way that suddenly it's going to gain traction, get wide dissemination. This very cryptic thing is going to travel around, influencing the masses of people who will never look at the Tao Te Ching and say, I'm not doing this crap. This is baloney. I want something supernatural. They have no idea that what the Tao Te Ching teaches is what their template teaches too. It's the very same framework. Buddhism too. Jesus too. They don't know they're all the same thing. They can't process the variation. They don't know how to read the material. They just think it's history. And of course, here I'm referring to Abrahamic material. Okay, That's population control right there. But it's more than that. It's become a tribal nightmare. We see it being used now as a justification to hate people when people don't know what the hell it even is. So they think they know. All right, let's see what else. I think there might have been another. Let's see. Healing salvation is bringing back the 2 into 1. Yes. When you make the 2 into 1, then you will enter the kingdom. The Gnostic text say, yes, that's exactly right. He wasn't talking about marriage. He was talking about your own inner masculine and feminine energies coming back together. Okay, and then there's the feminine and the masculine one. I don't like those terms. They're very, very used. They're very, very common. And I used to, long ago, I'm exploring stuff. I'm wondering, what is all this stuff about? And I could never make sense of it. There's a point in time where I think in my own head, I need to somehow mentally interact with this material. And I cannot look at this and figure out what to do. And if it says you need to combine these feelings, it's like, how do I do that? And I need to stop and explain myself here. In life, I felt really bad starting early off. And I wanted to learn things to feel better. And I looked and I saw people that felt good. They were fun. They were laughing and having fun, and they were from all different places, but I wasn't. And so I began to learn things, and I would learn things from people. But when I got done learning what I learned, I didn't feel any better. I can laugh about this now, but I can remember a time many years ago in life, I'm looking around at my friends going, God, what kind of tea do they drink? They got some kind of organic stuff. They're laughing, they have fun, they wear slip-on shoes. I've always got boots on and I'm drinking coffee all the time. Something's wrong with me. I'm not quite fit. I don't even know what the hell to do at that point. It's funny. You desperately try anything, but you don't feel okay. Yeah. That made me keep going. That made me keep looking. It was like, I can learn all this stuff, but I still feel not okay. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm looking at all the wrong things. Not until there's a point in time where I go, I understand one thing fundamentally now that I never understood before, and that is that no matter where I go and no matter where I move on to, despite the fact that it starts out okay, very quickly I see a cyclical return of things that aren't okay. And it happened enough times where I began to understand that there was one common thing between all of them. I was there. What? Is there steps to take? Is there something to do? This is just a statement. Well, it's more than that, actually. I think what he's talking about is when you resolve your mental inner conflict, when you have that, what is the one about the marriage? You know, that the marriage can't take place as long as the guests or the children of the bride are there, or something like that. Only when they leave can I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember what that is. Basically, the idea is this: you just sit there and sit quiet, happy. When everything is okay, you're combined. You're in a marriage. If, however, at some point in time, something is happening, there's a conflict, later on you're like, I shouldn't have done that. I did the wrong thing. I don't know why I feel that way. I don't know why this keeps acting out again. I sit over here and I've got this turmoil going on in my head. That right there is, there's not a marriage. There's nothing in there about male or female. That is about fucked up thinking. And your conscious is experiencing it because it's stored away in the subconscious. There's no male or female there. That is thinking. All that we are is a result of what we have thought. We have to get rid of the male-female terms. We're in a rabbit hole with that's going to keep us from interacting with the material. Bearing in mind that it is very heavily ensconced in mythology as far as the male-female dominance. You'll see it all the time. And when the females act out being bad, that's because of what we're holding inside. Look at the myth and be careful with it and understand that those are all it. But they have nothing to do with qualities. It has to do with the layers of mental hierarchy that we live through. And I'm at a point in time where I firmly believe that shift in thinking has to happen in order to actually interact with the material at the level of template, because that's exactly what it's doing. Nothing else. That right there is what it's doing. We have to know better what that is. Here, let me create a completely different metaphor that'll explain it without the male-female, and it's going to be something modernized. Let's say we're an aircraft flying through life. Imagine yourself as some sort of an aircraft flying through life. However, when you start off, you don't know where to go. At some point in time along the way, you're off course. And then what you don't realize is that all the time you're on autopilot. You think you're not. You're making decisions along the way, but actually you're being driven by something in the past. You're on an energy course in a flow of energy that's based on what you are accumulating as you go along, and that is your autopilot. So your autopilot is going to continually drive you around through life. And if you want to go to the right places, because it keeps taking you to bad places, you have to stop and reprogram the autopilot. You've got to get rid of the things that are bad and make sure only the things good that are there. And then you'll flow through life. Boom, that's it right there without the male-female. Autopilot, plain. We have to know better what that is. It's not male and female. It's the bad shit that keeps acting out. Remember when it started? That's it. We got to pull the seed. No BS. That's it right there. This also is highly, highly individual, highly personal. You could have two kids playing house at some point in time in the past, and a brother and sister in one family grow up and go, yeah, we were just kids playing around. In the other household, they grow up and go, we did something perverted. I'm ashamed. I've been told I'm bad for doing that, and now I hate you, and I have difficulty as a result of it. It really comes down to something like that. What is in your head that bothers you? It might not be the same thing, and it won't, and it's going to be different levels. You know, the girl that's sitting there crying at graduation because her dad is in jail because he got drunk and got picked up on his third DUI last night feels just as bad as the girl sitting next to her with her wealthy family, who her sister 2 years ago got a brand new little sporty BMW for graduation. But things have gone bad, and she unfortunately is going to have to take the mom's used Lexus as her gift, and she's just as devastated. What's the difference? It's our heads. It's what we take on. It always comes down to the value we give them. The agreements. It's as simple as that, the agreements. Okay, and it's really that we're not aware of it, but it also becomes incredibly complex. I don't want to make light of it. It's all you have to do is just resolve things in the past. It really takes a lot of work. We're in motion, and it's not easy to just simply change life today like it might have been at one point in time. When you get a career, job, something you depend on in a certain place, it's not easy to just say, pick up and leave sometimes. I've been able to in my life at times where collapses happen so bad that it's like you have no choice. You got to move on. You got to pick something else. I've done that several times in life. Move on with a backpack. But it gets you someplace. It's a part of the process, but it's not an easy thing. And it depends on how far you have to go and what you have to resolve. Okay, you know what? The other thing I wanted to say, it was actually on a different comment. I made a mistake in the video. I didn't catch it when I edited it even, where I said something about getting back to life at 7 years, Jesus reference. And actually, that should have been 7 days. Here's what I want to say about the Jewish numbers. This is super critical for people to understand. It's hard to grasp this. The numbers don't mean the numbers don't mean numbers. The numbers are analogs. The numbers are like saying wine, or what is wine is a new way to feel. I'm going to fast, which means I'm not going to mentally consume anything. We're making spiritual transitions here. What does the word mean as an analogous term right here? So in this case, if I was to say in Jewish material, I want to go to 7, people would go, what? Okay, in the material, 7 is analogous for naked, unashamed in the Garden of Eden. That's before first sin. I want to get to this point right here. 7 means I want to get to the point before first sin. If we were to go, every one of these has a destination. You have to establish a destination or you don't go on a path. Okay, so what are we doing here? We're going to Canaan in Jewish material. Jesus is going to tell us to kingdom of heaven within. If we were to go to the Greek, here's a good perfect example. The Greek story again, short one, the voyage of the Argo. One of the first things that has to be established up front is what he's got to go do, what he's got to get. And it's something at the far side of the earth. Remember, this is a personal path. The earth is my earth. I am Jason. If I'm turning inward, I'm the one going to get my land back. Pelias represents my early self. So I turn inward. I face my early self, but I'm being told that the only way I get my kingdom back is to get the golden fleece. And the golden fleece, no one's ever gone there before. It's at the far side of the earth, and it's being guarded. This represents getting back to that early point in time. The golden fleece, far side of the earth. When we get in Jesus material and you see the Gnostics using a man old in days will ask a child 7 days old about the place of life. Now they'll do that in the New Testament too, but I don't think they use the 7 right there. They just say children. In this case, though, the 7 days, what is it? 7 days is back to that pure place. The old man wants to know about life. Go back to before you judged things. The 7s are going to mean that right there. So when I use the term 7 days, 7 years, the big collection of them is from Genesis here. This is where I've gathered up that and nobody else has this. In fact, let's take a look at it real quickly right here. This is the number collection I have. Again, this is highly unusual for anybody to come up with this. I wish other people could jump on board and help out. There's a 3-7 that what I find is a repeat sequence that tells me how to collect numbers. If I keep looking at repeats and keep trying different things, eventually I come up with a consistent pattern. But it takes a long time. It takes hours even to do a video on the thing. But what ends up happening is that 3 and that 7 right there, do you see how those are on this list of green? Right there at Eden. Eden, 7 is repeated 3 times right on in the second creation story in the 3rd verse. 7 is repeated the 3rd time right there. And that is starting a grid sequence. The 3s and the 7s are going to show up elsewhere, but those numbers actually go out and grab other numbers. That's where I talked earlier about the 900s and the 800s appearing 7 times. I caught this in editing. I forgot to mention in this video that if you take those 2 creation stories, there's 2 separate creation stories. If you were to separate them and put them side by side, you would see that the 3 and the 7 creation happens parallel to naked, unashamed in the Garden of Eden. So that's why you line them up that way. When these numbers go out and appear with other numbers, it gathers those numbers. So the 900 appearing with 30, 40, 60, things like that, you would just grab up the 30, 40, 60 and dismiss the 900 as simply a carrier, a surrogate 7 that's gathering up other numbers. There's a reason for this. These 22 numbers are repeated over 6,052 times in the Bible. Do you see patterns in there? That's why. There's patterns that are pretty deep, and then the numbering system goes in. It helps us point to things. I'm not going to get into it in this video because it's going to get too deep. All I want to say is that 7 right there, I've got solidly right here means pure state. That's the destination you're looking for. 7 is an analogous term holding a destination, which makes it very tricky. But it also makes it very consistent. You could translate that into any language you want. And the 7 is always going to be a 7. 3 is always going to be a 3. The meaning of that analog will never get lost as long as it stays numerically exactly what it is right there in a decimal counting system. That is a genius way to translate something. 7 always means pure state, no matter what language. You can't mistranslate that. It won't show up somewhere else as a orange. Car. Nope, it can't translate. It'll be 7. So, yeah, it's pretty genius. But that's what I wanted to say on that one. So when I use the terms like that, and these numbers right here, I'm pretty solid with what these are right here. But I don't know anybody else that's analyzing it like I do. And I think that because I can demonstrate consistency with this, I'm very happy with what I'm doing, and I'm going to stick with it. I think what I'll do right now is just call it a very complicated cheat code that I've discovered. Here, look at this. The Book of Matthew, King James Version. This numbering pattern is being used in the background by everybody writing these stories. Do you see the David? 17 times. We see 17 on our list. That was the same amount of times as Sarai's name. Abraham. 7 times. Abraham, 7, 3, 7. He's the father of the entire religion. 8 times. There we go. Looks like first sin. We can keep going through here. And what I'm going to suggest to you, in fact, here, no, before moving on, I'm going to show you how they continue to keep gridding it. Do you see the, I'm going to wonder how many times 3 has been repeated in the book of Matthew. "12 times. So it looks like 3 and 12 point to each other. What about 7? All of them are our numbers on our list. 7 is repeated exactly 12 times as well. How about 12? is repeated exactly 12 times. This is not a fluke. It's consistent. How about bread? Exactly 15 times. Bread, spiritual. It's a good thing. You want to eat bread. Let's take a look at something in the book of Luke real quick. Jesus, is that a monomyth? Jesus is, where do we have it here? There we go. He was 12 years old when they went up to Jerusalem after the custom of the feast. It was 3 days when they found him in the temple, 3s and 7s. He was about 30 years of age when he started his ministry. 30, there's a calling. And he was 40 days tempted of the devil in the wilderness. There's all of our numbers repeating again and again and again. Here, let me show you how it works. I think it's pretty thick for people. I don't know how many people follow along or really understand it. But if we go to Ezekiel, that's the beginning of a monomyth. And it's going to be doing certain things here, like setting up a pure state in the beginning, but something that needs to be done. So what do we have? We've got the 30th year in the 4th month. We've also got 5, that's on our list, but within 2 verses, 5th is even repeated 3 times. The repeat word sequences is what we're looking for. 30th, 4th, 5th, 5th, 5th. We got pure state here that's ready to go. But look at, we're also right by River Chebar. That sounds like a threshold to cross. What do you think if we check up on Chebar, how many times it's repeated, and we find out Chebar is 8 times. Chebar is going to be an evil thing to pass. And you know what? That's going to align with Greek myth and the river Styx. Now, in the background, this is what there is. Chaldeans. This is maintained everywhere in the Bible and in apocryphal material, in all things viable. It's even in Gnostic material. Is that what you're going to find is a numbering pattern that is so bizarre, you'd never know it's there. We don't have it memorized. All of the nouns and verbs have been repeated an exact amount of times to give them a value, to give them a spiritual weight. It is clever. It is buried. It is in the King James Version, and more current versions are dropping it. It's getting lost. There's magic in there. Let me drop an example of how to use it I'm going to use Genesis over here. I know that there's something in here that is wine. Noah, after the flood, gets drunk on wine. Wine being repeated 12 times tells me that spiritually it's something good. I have to look at this and say they're not talking about a glass of wine, Merlot or whatever. They're not talking about alcohol. What they're talking about spiritually is a way of feeling different. He drank the wine. He felt a new way. So 12 is a good thing. Noah was feeling good. The actual story there has Noah is a husbandman and grows a vineyard, and from his vineyard creates the wine, and from the wine then he gets drunk. So this represents we have now rectified what it is through the flood. Whatever we've gone through a healing process, we have now created a new life on the other side, and from that life we're consuming from it, and we feel good. And we're naked and uncovered. It's pretty simple. But it sounds different. You have to understand verbal encoding. Nakedness. Nakedness is repeated exactly 5 times, and it's 3 times right here. What we know is that nakedness is a good, pure thing then. He was drunk on wine and naked. What does that mean? He was feeling good, and he was uncovered from his shame. He had resolved it. That's how we use the material to understand what they're doing. There's something that is in the background that is very evident that shows it's man-made. I didn't see this for a long time. It is there, but you have to look for it. If you don't look for it, you don't find it. So, I'm kind of standing out here on a limb someplace by myself. So I get that. But you know what? I wanted to comment on a couple of things there because I appreciate what you have going on your channel and that we've communicated a little bit here, that you're looking at some things. And I wanted to kind of feed some things in right there that I've become very strongly I guess you'd have to say opinionated, but it's not just opinionated. If you look at that right there, it suddenly, it makes the template come alive. If you translate it in the mental hierarchy, as opposed to a male and female characteristic, qualities, in, out, anything like that, as just really a matter of negative or positive emotions, fear or joy-based, from the emotions that you can look at and understand where they came from in life, and then work to resolve those, or work to somehow look at yourself in such a way that you've extracted yourself from that little victim that hurts and feels that way, or that you resolve the things that you need to the best of your ability, that you somehow make amends, whatever it takes to start becoming free of the things that grip us. There's going to be people out there that it doesn't bother them a bit. It doesn't matter. It's each individual's personal path. Okay. Yeah, and that's it. That was important, that if you're going to interpret the material, that those terms have to be used in the way that I'm using them. I've tried and I've worked at this for years. I just think it's easier to jump you to there. I would strongly encourage you to rethink the qualities, the characteristics, the male, female, and go straight to a mental hierarchy, decision-making process that also feels all the experiences and the emotions, so it makes piss-poor decisions sometimes because it wants to feel better instead of resolving something. That is the male. The female, what got hurt, what got trashed, what needs to be purified, what needs to be married to us, our inner being, our self-awareness that is not full of broken promises and a life of hurt. You know, if you think about it, the consciousness is how we experience life, whether it's happening physically or whether it's happening in our head. We're still having the experiences, and it's in the consciousness. So the consciousness is really in the driver's seat. It just doesn't know it. At first, it just goes on autopilot, collecting and gathering. And I mean, depending on the person, you could be taught not to do that, but typically we're not. I'm sure people growing up in monastic environments and things like that, they take a different path. We're here really looking for an inner path for ourselves. Okay, so I don't think that there's anything else in here other than that. And I think that the way to extract it really is to interact with it individually. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. I know they say that, but we can talk about it all day long. It's the real thing. It is absolutely the real thing. We can talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. It is real. It is absolutely true. What makes it eternal or not? This becomes personal. It's for me. When it is eternal for me is only when I take the path. I may know what to do. Everybody may know what to do. But if you don't do it, it's not eternal. So you just have to take your own path. It's a mental personal trip. People following and looking for guidance and looking to be led along the way, that you got to go to church or somewhere where somebody's preaching something and telling you what to believe. And when you get to this level, it's interactive. You find the way, and nobody tells you anything because you find the way. And they don't live in your head. Only you do. All right. Hope this was helpful, interesting. Helpful mostly. I really want to encourage that idea of that mental hierarchy, because that is how the template becomes mentally interactive. One transition that's difficult to make is that it's really mental. It's difficult to get away from the mystical, the religious, the supernatural, all that kind of stuff, and just go, you know what? It works. It exactly works. But we're living in an energy collective that we don't understand, in quantum energy, and that we are parts of that, and we're functioning within that, and that we're seeing things that we don't understand, that are natural, that we go, oh my God, this is magical, mystical. However, if you keep it as magical, mystical, all you can do is look at it and go, ooh, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If you go, okay, wait a minute, there's a process there. I'm flowing in something based on the nature of the emotional state of my memories. And if I rectify the emotional state of those memories, I simply flow different through this cosmic flow, differently in the human collective, which then creates different conditions for my life. Not just the way that I feel, but that the experiences and the manifestations of other things that just happen automatically, that I don't have to go after. I want them, but I don't have to overthink failure. If you resolve the failure, the path becomes easy. It becomes automatic. It becomes a flow. Your Father who sees in secret rewards in secret. Take that to heart. fix what's broke and watch things work. If we just try to make things work without fixing what's broke, we're an anchored ship. We're a tied dog. All right. It's hard to make that transition and say, you know what, it's just a mental thing. I got to do it. But it creates that flow in the collective, which looks exactly like everything we're seeing that's mystical, but it's natural. You figure that out, you can start working with it a lot better. All right. See you in the next video.